Broadcasting from the Unshackled Studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everybody, and Happy New Year and Happy Australia Month. It is our first WilmsFront Snapshot news show of 2026 on this Monday, the 5th of January. The Venezuelan capital, Caracas, had some late New Year fireworks. It is 9:05 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where I was at first planning to lead with Melbourne's New Year machete resurgence that for about a day or two bumped off, Albanese continuing to hide under his desk post the Bondi terrorist Islamist massacre. Then there was the New Year's Constellation bar fire in Crans, Montana, a Swiss ski town, which has killed 40 and injured 119. The cause was the sparklers in those champagne bottles, which one of the waitresses held too close to the roof of flammable acoustic foam, which set the whole place on fire. There was only one wooden staircase up there. The whole thing was a death trap. Now, FYI, the acoustic foam that I've got here in this studio to help stop the sound bouncing around is the non-flammable type. I certainly did my due diligence making sure that I wasn't building a studio which could catch on fire. But it was the explosions, the pyrotechnics, the fires in the Venezuelan capital, Caracas, on Saturday that grabbed all the global attention. So let's get straight into it.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, as I said, it was early Saturday morning in Caracas, which was Saturday evening here in Australia. All the global news media, I got an alert on my phone. I was at the soccer, witnessing a dull goalless draw between Melbourne City and Sydney FC. And there are all these images of US planes and dropping bombs on buildings in Caracas. At first, it looked like, because I'd previously covered it here on WilmsFront, Trump, it's blowing up those vessels, Venezuelan vessels through the Caribbean Sea, which he claimed were smuggling drugs into the United States. And so there had been a naval build-up in the Caribbean Sea. It did look like that Trump had ordered an invasion of Afghanistan to see all of those US helicopters, planes in Caracas. And I was thinking to myself, no, Trump, you haven't gone and invaded a country. You can kiss that Nobel Peace Prize goodbye. But Trump later, it was about an hour or so later, posted on Truth Social, "The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who's been flown, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago." And of course, signing off, "Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump." And we heard at that press conference that this wasn't a military operation. It was a law enforcement operation, albeit carried out by US military Delta Force. So they went into Nicolas Maduro's presidential palace and extracted and extradited him at 2 a.m. along with his wife while he was sleeping. Has anyone seen the 1997 Hollywood blockbuster Air Force One, where Harrison Ford is the president and the plane gets hijacked by neo-Soviet terrorists? Well, the opening scene where a joint US and Russian operation goes into the Kazakhstan presidential palace and extracts and captures the fictional Kazakhstan dictator Alexander Radic. That's the opening scene. And of course, if you go to that clip on YouTube, all of the recent comments are like, wow, must have exactly how the US extracted Maduro. And conspiracy theorists would again say that this is another feature of US Hollywood predictive programming. Though if that's the case, then the US Secret Service, well, they should make sure there's not a mole in the Secret Service, and also not allow any Colombian film crews on the plane, particularly if the head journalist looks a bit like Gary Oldman, who plays the lead neo-Soviet terrorist in that movie. It's probably got a few extra streams. I'm not sure what streaming service it is on there, but yeah, basically that shows that Hollywood's basically done everything. And these Hollywood movies, there's Mark Dice. He has in his more serious videos that Hollywood collaborates with the US military on films. The US military collaborates because they want their military to be seen in a positive light. The most obvious example is Top Gun. So what at first looked like it was a US regime change invasion looked more of a coup. I think of a 1973 Chilean coup when Salvador Allende was toppled while he killed himself and replaced with General Augusto Pinochet. But in the end, all it was the US Delta Forces carrying out a Drug Enforcement Administration arrest warrant. This is actually this is not a meme. This was actually the DEA wanted reward sign for the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro for narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importing, conspiracy to use and carry machine guns. That seems the most sort of ludicrous charge. Of course, every military on the planet has access to machine guns and destructive devices in furtherance of drug crime. So Trump revealed that they had somebody in Maduro's inner circle who they collaborated with, so who I assume is 50 million US dollars richer. And now this reward, it was only $15 million in 2020. It was up to $25 million by the Biden administration. So this a wanted sign and reward, this was under Joe Biden as well, and it was upped in Trump's second term to 50 million. So the photo that you can see on your right, that is Maduro on board the USS Umijima. And so he's got a blindfold on and headphones on, so he doesn't know where he's being flown to. So it looks like he's actually wearing badass sunglasses there, and well, it shows how well he's being treated. That it's not a bag over his head. He's given some stylish a stylish blindfold, and he's also been given a water bottle in between his handcuffs. So he's certainly being treated better than, I would say, Joel Davis is a political prisoner in New South Wales. So he was flown and arrived in the Metropolitan Detention Centre in Brooklyn. He's been indicted in the Southern District of New York, the federal district. Why has the U.S. Justice Department chosen the Southern District of New York, where all of those Trump blocking justices are based? Now, the Metropolitan Detention Centre, that might ring a bell because that is where Jeffrey Epstein suicided, and that's also where P. Diddy is being held. I wonder if they're going to be cell buddies, or maybe he's going to be sharing a cell with Luigi Mangione, of course, who assassinated the United Healthcare CEO. Now, apparently conditions are very bad and overcrowded in the Metropolitan Detention Centre, so I guess Maduro will get a taste of what he subjected the Venezuelan people to. Now, this is as it's called, the prep walk that the U.S. authorities carried out.
Night, ¿qué se dice? Buenas noches, ¿no? Good night. Happy New Year.
Now, I haven't seen such a happy prisoner. I mean, he's posing with the DEA agents, got the thumbs up. That's a legit photo. There's been some fake ones circulating around. The very clearly fake one is him being arrested by Hank, the DEA agent from Breaking Bad. That's clearly fake, but it's funny. Who is the greater villain? Is it Nicolas Maduro or is it Gus Fring? Well, at least Gus Fring fed people with his money laundering chicken business, while there was hardly any food in Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela, let alone fried chicken. Now, a lot of the conspiracy theorists, and I certainly think that, he looks far too happy to be a political prisoner, basically saying Happy New Year in English. And maybe to channel Kamala Harris, maybe he feels he's been unburdened by what has been. He doesn't have to worry about running Venezuela, well, ruining Venezuela. And there's Trump, I think, has said as much, is that it was an arranged surrender. Sort of, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And as I alluded to, it doesn't even look like that this is a coup. Because despite the Nobel Prize winning Venezuelan opposition leader, Maria Correa Machado, says she's ready to lead a transitional government, Trump says that she doesn't have the support in the country, although she's a nice lady. So Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been sworn in. She's demanded the return of Maduro. She has had high-level cabinet positions in both Maduro's predecessor, Hugo Chavez's cabinet, and in Maduro's cabinet, before she became president. Now, Trump says that if she follows the US plan, she'll be allowed to stay. Trump says that the US is in charge of Venezuela and will take over oil production because Venezuela, as you can see in this graph, is the country that has the most oil reserves on Earth. So larger than Saudi Arabia, Iran. I didn't know Canada was fourth on that list. Maybe that's why Trump has been so determined to have Canada as the 51st state of the United States. I mean, at least Trump is pretty transparent that it's about oil. It's not about freedom and democracy. That's, of course, what most people would like for Venezuela now, but it's about oil. And Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, a couple of other memes have been that Rubio is now going to have to be Secretary of State for Venezuela as well, and photoshopping him in the presidential sash. Has anyone seen that Parks and Recreation episode with the Venezuelan mayor who says right to jail? Well, that's where Maduro has just gone, right to jail, though he will get a trial. And now Rubio has said the motive was to stop the oil becoming used by hostile powers in the US's sphere of influence, being extracted and used by the US adversaries, Russia, China, and Iran. As Maduro's extraction and extradition was happening, he was meeting a delegation from the Chinese Foreign Ministry. I wonder if they're thinking to themselves, right, for that, we're going to release a new virus just for that. But for Trump for the US to actually be in charge of Venezuela and to fund it, he would both have to get military authorization and get budget approval from Congress. Now, he didn't tell Congress in advance because he claimed that it was a law enforcement operation, not a military operation. Under the US Constitution, only Congress has the power to declare war, but in US constitutional history, that's just gone out the window. The US Constitution is constantly ignored. But those who say that what Trump is doing is against international law is a bunch of crap. It's not worth the paper it's written on. They say that Trump has violated the UN Charter. What about Nicolas Maduro violating the Venezuelan people's, the UN Covenant on Civil and Political Rights? What about that UN document? Of course, it's very selective outrage. Now, despite Venezuela having the most oil reserves in the world, let's just go back to that. Nicolas Maduro has totally collapsed the economy. The people are impoverished. They have to queue up for groceries. I mean, if you look at the United Arab Emirates, that only has 113 billion barrels. Venezuela has 303. And you look at the UAE, they're building these ludicrous skyscrapers everywhere. Like, how do you completely financially ruin an oil-rich country? I mean, that just shows not only was he tyrannical, but he was also, socialism is economic illiteracy, but still, how do you just it's oil, it's like guaranteed for wealth. It's like, how do you run a country like that? And now, the 8 million Venezuelans who've fled over the Chavez Maduro regime. It was a slow burn from Chavez was democratically elected in 1998, though he did try to stage a military coup in 1992. Venezuela had already had an economic downturn in the late 80s and early 90s. Chavez was the strong man who came up and managed to get elected, and then he eventually hollowed out all of the democratic institutions, took over basically all of the state apparatus, stacked the court, shut down critical TV networks. And as Marco Rubio posted on X, Maduro is not the president of Venezuela, and his regime is not the legitimate government. Maduro is the head of the Cartel de los Solis, a narco-terror organization that's taken possession of the country, and he's under indictment for pushing drugs into the United States. And he rigged the 2018 and 2024 Venezuelan presidential elections, so he's not the legitimate president. But the socialists in the Anglo-sphere countries who are protesting for Maduro's release and against the US occupation, I think they've recycled their blood for oil signs from the Iraq War, though it is disputed if there has been any civilian casualties. You wouldn't trust the Venezuelan authorities as much as you would trust the Gazan authorities. So there has been some socialists in speeches who have claimed that Maduro is democratically elected and has been removed by a foreign aggressor. Then there are others who they've just deflected from Maduro's electoral fraud, his abuse of human rights, and say what the US did is worse. Now, it's interesting that Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron, they have endorsed the toppling of Maduro. It's interesting, Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy, although she was against the regime of Nicolas Maduro, said that military intervention was the wrong way to go. I didn't pick Giorgia Meloni for having a non-interventionist libertarian style foreign policy. Obviously, I am a libertarian non-interventionist, and I think that Donald Trump has taken a very big risk, I would say, not just geopolitical, but in basically his political legacy, promising no new wars. He would say that this is not a war. I mean, the Venezuelan regime is still in place. It's just the president has been elected on US narco-terrorism charges. And there is very clearly, if it turned out there was a full-scale invasion, there would definitely be more mixed views in the MAGA movement. I know that Thomas Massey has condemned Trump's actions, as has Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, she brings up the hypocrisy that Trump pardoned the US conviction of the former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, on drug trafficking charges. The difference in that situation is that he He was extradited to the US after his term had expired by the Honduran authorities. The most historical parallel is the 1989 extradition and later conviction of Panama President Manuel Noriega. Now, George H.W. Bush at that time, it was a full-scale US occupation, though not for years like Iraq and Afghanistan. And then it was eventually Panama transitioned to a functioning democracy. Obviously, the US interest there was the Panama Canal, which the US built, but Jimmy Carter gave to President Noriega's predecessor in 1977, which Trump has also said that he wants to seize back control of the Panama Canal. And this is why the US cares about what happens in Panama, why they care about what happens in Venezuela. Though it's interesting that Trump is biting when journalists ask him who's next. And of course, he's got Lindsey Graham, the biggest Republican neocon in the Senate. He's egging him on. He never saw a military intervention he didn't like. So he said that maybe the Colombian leftist president, Gustavo Petro, could be next, that he faces the presidential election this year. So he could be gone anyway. Cuba has always been a fantasy for US regime change, but of course after the Bay of Pigs in 1961 leading to the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Soviet missiles in Cuba in 1962, the US has not seriously considered regime change in Cuba, even after the fall of the Soviet Union. So the Castros no longer run Cuba, but it's still communist. Raul Castro, he's still alive, though he handed over to Miguel Diaz-Canel. And also, or this would be probably a even bigger one. I think nobody's even asked Trump this, but the Mexican president Claudia Sheinbaum, a socialist who's condemned Trump's actions in Venezuela. And now as I mentioned, this is the first US, whatever you want to call it, intervention, military operation in Latin America in the 21st century. There used to be a lot of direct and indirect military interventions, CIA-led coups in the 20th century. Now, why is the spin you're hearing from the Trump administration about why operations in Venezuela are different is because under the Munro Doctrine, this is America's sphere of influence. And the difference is obviously that Iraq and Afghanistan, well, they're in the Middle East, but they were also Muslim countries, while Venezuela is 92% Christian, 80% Catholic. Latin America is overwhelmingly, almost exclusively Christian Catholic. I know that the clips of Tucker Carlson are going viral for saying that he doesn't really dislike Maduro that much. He's a social conservative who banned gay marriage and abortion. And this is why I'm also critical of some of the relativists on the right, that Sure, there's a lot of problems in our Western countries, but it's nothing like Venezuela and communist China. Just because they're socially conservative, hardly anyone has rights in those countries, and the state is its purpose in running a culture is control. Well, I should mention that Cuba did a 180 on gay marriage after the Castros were famous for persecuting gays. Raul Castro's daughter, they led they had a referendum on legalizing gay marriage, which I don't know how accurate referendums are in Cuba, whether that was legitimate or not. Certainly their elections, everybody's a winner. Only Communist Party of Cuba is allowed to run. I digress here. Going back to who could be arrested next, maybe the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, for overseeing that massive Somalian Medicare and daycare fraud. Tim Walz is doubling down, saying that it's racist to single out the Somalia community and that white men commit fraud. Yeah, like you, Tim Walz. So I think Trump should arrest him and federally indict Tampon Tim. The only way that Tim Walz would avoid a lifetime in the Metropolitan Detention Center with P. Diddy, Luigi Mangione, and Nicolas Maduro is if he played insanity, which I think would be a good defense. Like, you see the way that it was like this. That was Tim Walz on stage. He carried on like a lunatic. If that's not a manifestation of somebody who's severely mentally unstable, I don't know what is. There's also been Australians fantasizing about Trump extracting and arresting Anthony Albanese. And this was Albo's post on X, and I should read it in Danger Dan's Albo voice. The Australian government is monitoring developments in Venezuela. We urge all parties to support dialogue and diplomacy in order to secure regional stability and prevent escalation. Australia has held long concerns about the situation in Venezuela, including the need to respect democratic principles, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. We continue to support international law and a peaceful democratic transition in Venezuela that reflects the will of the Venezuelan people. Australians in Venezuela who need assistance can contact the 24/7 emergency consular assistance team from anywhere in the world or from within Australia. I'm not going to read out the number. He didn't finish off though with, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." Now, there has also been, like, the Albo one is just sort of a meme, a fantasy. Somebody on Gab said, how would you like it if Trump came in and stole all of your resources? Well, we've got the critical minerals in the ground in Australia that the US and the rest of the world so desperately need for chip manufacturing, AI infrastructure, and of course, Albanese doesn't have the capacity or will to properly extract it and process it because there'd be too much green opposition. And so, if Trump came in and extracted all of our minerals, he'd actually be doing us and the world a favor because, like Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, who messed up the extraction of oil, like, we've got all these minerals in the ground, yet we're on the road to Venezuelan ruin ourselves. Now, I saw the Greens defense spokesman, David Shoebridge, or David Shipbrains, as Reg Penny calls him, say that this sets a dangerous precedent for any world leader and to basically intervene, invade, and take out a leader they don't like. Well, as if like as if Putin by occupying parts of Ukraine in 2022, as like dictators and those who strong men who have the veneer of democratic legitimacy, like Vladimir Putin, they're just going to do what they want, as is Xi Jinping. In fact, this seemed more like a warning from Trump to these other geopolitical rivals that, look, I am prepared to take action. I'm not a taco. Trump always chickens out. I went and did this. Maybe no more tacos was Trump's New Year's resolution. Also, another suggested extraction and extradition for the US Delta Forces is of the East Safety Commissioner, Julie Inman Grant, who the US Congress has threatened with contempt charges if she fails to attend to Congress. She's been given a congressional subpoena by the House Judiciary Chairman, Jim Jordan. She's a US citizen. She has been suppressing the free speech of the people of the United States, and she is a US citizen. So I think it's only fair that, if the Albanese government isn't going to comply with Julian Mangrant's extradition to the United States, maybe the Delta forces should come here. There'd also be a lot of many Australians who'd offer to take Julian Mangrant to the airport, pay for a taxi fare there, and put her on a plane back to the United States, as Pauline Hanson says to people who don't adopt our values. She says, I'll take them to the airport, pay for their taxi fare so they can leave the country. Maybe the US government has a mole inside of the East Safety Office, like they did with Nicolas Maduro's regime. Now, before there was the Venezuelan US military operation to capture and extradite Nicolas Maduro, it was the mass protests in Iran, where there is a economic crisis, which obviously US sanctions exacerbate, like they did in Venezuela, but it's the Iranian theocracy, its own economic mismanagement, the fact that it sends so much money overseas to Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. It funds all of this. It has a foreign aid program, yet leaves its people in economic destitute. And hungry people, they've got nothing to lose. The thing is, there have been multiple mass protests in Iran. This is in multiple cities, not just Tehran. But they always end up being suppressed by the Iranian Revolutionary Army because no opposition is allowed to exist. There are even cries for the restoring of the Shah of Iran, who there is a Shah of Iran in exile at the moment, who I believe is over in the United States. So that is Reza Pahlavi, Crown Prince of Iran. So he, I think us non-interventionists, yes, isolationists, whatever you want to call us, anti-war libertarians, we're not. We're against intervention, not because we're pro-Maduro. Like, you don't go down the road that Tucker Carlson is going down by moral relativism. Otherwise, you end up like Jackson Hinkle, who's the mega communist, actually goes to Lebanon to the Hezbollah leader's funeral and asks questions of Maduro at a press conference stage. Obviously, it's, as the saying goes, you never go full retard. So obviously leftists, they think that Maduro is a good guy because they, of course, will support socialist governments no matter what. But I am skeptical based on sober reading of history that I don't think the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Ayatollah, will fall.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, Anthony Albanese, he said after the Bondi Islamist terrorist massacre that killed 15 Australians and injured 40, that he would unite the country. Well, he certainly united the whole country against him. When he's not giving a press conference, he is hiding under his desk in Canberra. Normally at the SCG, a New Year's test, normally the Prime Minister gets into the commentary box with Adam Gilchrist and that Indian-British commentator Usha. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but has a stint in the commentary box. ScoMo did it. Albo's done it a couple of times, but Albo is nowhere to be seen at the SCG test. There was a standing ovation for the Bondi heroes, including Ahmed Al-Ahmed. But if Albanese had been there, the boos would have been so intense. Well, there was a prime minister who did go into the commentary box. That was John Howard, the former prime minister. Was a cricket tragic. The only time that he had a major public poo-ha was when he decided to have a go at bowling, and he bowled the worst no ball that had ever been bowled, I think, in history. Trevor Chappell's underarm was better. So John Howard seemed to step up while Anthony Albanese is hiding. Now, there was already the letter by the families of the Bondi victims calling for a federal royal commission into the Bondi massacre and anti-Semitism. Then there was the letter of 139 business leaders calling for a royal commission. And there were some notable names, such as former Reserve Bank governors Philip Lowe and Glenn Stevens. There was a businesswoman, now University Chancellor Jennifer Westacott. There was also former Labor Deputy Premier in Victoria, James Merlino. Then there have been more than 200 prominent barristers and former judges who have penned a letter calling for a federal royal commission. And then we had over the weekend the sports stars, over 70 of them, calling for a royal commission. So there was a press conference yesterday where Dawn Fraser spoke, who has had the reputation for many years of being Australia's no-nonsense nana. She reminds me of my own nan. She looks very old now at 88. She's had a history of hating political correctness. She's also been hated by the left because she said about Nick Kyrgios and Bernard Tomic, if they want to behave like that, they can go back to where their parents came from. And they also don't like that she was Gina Reinhart's spokeswoman for her swimming sponsorship. So they don't like that. Nova Peris, former Labor senator, was also there. She's a hardcore Zionist. So it's the ironic thing about this is that Albanese, he loved it when business leaders, sports stars, other celebrities came out in favor of The Voice, and before that, same-sex marriage. But now his favored way of trying to generate support is now being used against him. Now, this is from somebody who believes that a federal royal commission on the Bondi Massacre, if it turns into one about anti-Semitism, will just become a sideshow, because although that was the motive of the Bondi terrorists, Sajid and Naveed Akram, the Islamic State ideology was the underlying ideology. And of course, federal royal commissions, they of course tend to recommend the wrong things. Now, Chris Minns, who I said last week is Australia's, it's currently Australia's most dangerous leader when it comes to Australia's freedoms. He is turned into another dictator, Dan, and he feels emboldened because he's been praised by the News Corp media and the Liberal Party for saying nice things after the Bondi Massacre, even though it was his and his authorities' failure as well. And also praising him for calling a New South Wales Royal Commission. And this is why Chris Minns has basically felt emboldened to basically implement a police state where protests are illegal, except if they're communists, of course. Nobody was moved on by the New South Wales police. There was about 250 who gathered in Sydney yesterday for the pro-Maduro rally. The only arrest was of Drew Pavlou for holding a pro-US sign. So maybe Mark Latham's nickname for him, Ho Chi Minh's, is the most appropriate, which is not racist. It's a play on Ho Chi Minh, the Vietnamese communist leader. It's a pun, and he is behaving like a communist dictator, banning protests, except for communist ones, and Invasion Day rallies, they'll be allowed to happen as well. So yeah, the communists, they're still allowed to protest, even though he said that that protests were banned. Though somebody who didn't protest, all they did was say something foolish on social media. Joel Davis is who has basically, when he was arrested by the Australian Federal Police for using a carriage service to menace or harass, when he posted to his followers on Telegram, urging them to rhetorically rape the federal Teal member for Wentworth, Allegra Spender, for criticising the NSN White Australia rally outside New South Wales Parliament House, saying abolish the Jewish lobby. He didn't need to say that, but saying something foolish, crass on social media, that does not justify him being taken off the street, thrown in solitary confinement, basically being disappeared. Nobody has spoken to him, not his family, not other NSN White Australia members, his former co-hosts, Blair Cottrell and Thomas Sewell, have not been able to speak with him. All that has been communicated to them is by Joel Davis's lawyer, who communicated this to Thomas Sewell, that there's been more charges that have been slapped on Joel Davis. He is not allowed to exercise, confined to his isolation cell for 24 hours a day instead of the standard 23, and has been denied meals on several occasions. He is being held at Long Bay Prison, which was recently found to have been not up to standard. So apparently Joel Davis is they say he's a threat to social cohesion, by which he was denied bail, but they seem to consider him a threat to the Australian government itself. And so this is what they have done to him. I mean, Nicolas Maduro is being treated better, I would say, in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. I would certainly argue that Naveed Akram, who's now in Goulburn Supermax, is probably being treated better. And all those childcare pedophiles who've been accused pedophiles, I should say, have been arrested. Some have been convicted. They are probably being treated much better than Joel Davis. Just because you don't like somebody. And look, me personally, Joel Davis I liked the Joel and Blair show at the beginning, but Joel, when he became hard-line National Socialist, really rubbed me the wrong way, and in fact turned me more back towards hardcore libertarianism. But does that mean that just because I didn't like what he stood for, that doesn't mean that he should be taken off the street, thrown in a prison cell, left to rot? That's not how our country. That's not how our country should be. This sort of thing happens in communist countries, and where people are just disappeared and you don't know what's happened to them. Now, elsewhere, Albanese, despite his sucking up to the communist Chinese, they've slapped fresh beef tariffs on worldwide. So all that sucking up by his Trade Minister Don Farrell going to China holding lobsters in hands, that all counted for nothing. Like they still screwed Australian beef producers over. Well, I just guess that's much more beef for us. We'll just have to eat more. I'm happy with that. Even though Anthony Albanese has again shown why he is a terrible leader and is leading us to economic ruin, Susan Ley, the Liberal opposition leader, has anyone tuned into her daily press conferences? Oh God, it's her voice, her way of speaking. It's just so annoying. And of course, she says on repeats when she's calling about the Bondi Royal Commission, she says, "What has Mr. Albanese got to hide?" It's like she's taken lesson on being really annoying in press conferences from Michaela Cash. And she's always tended to misspeak in press conferences. And when she was asked a question on Ukraine, Australia providing some more tanks to Ukraine. Susan Ley made a serious misspeak. In fact, a 40-year-old. She went back in time 40 years.
The government should always stand ready to support the illegal occupation of Ukraine by the USSR, by the Soviet Union.
The Soviet Union? I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
Must crush capitalism.
Sorry, I couldn't resist making a mashup of my own. When she said Soviet Union, USSR, it reminded me of that famous Simpsons scene. Soviet Union, I thought you guys broke up. And of course, there's the Beatles song Back in the USSR. So Susan Ley, she's 63 years old. No, she's 64 years old now. So as when I'm 64, that's another Beatles song. So yeah, she certainly remembers when the Soviet Union was an actual country. It was interesting that no journalist actually wanted to correct her, or one of her staffers decided, "Hey, Susan, before you go, you better just correct that you said the Soviet Union, and you better correct that there." So, the other time she misspoke was on the climate policy. So Susan Ley, she's changed her mind on so many issues, Israel, Palestine, and live animal exports, and of course says one thing, but she means another in a press conference by misspeaking.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
So it's a new year in Victoria, and it's the year of the machete again. So the machete bins didn't get all the machetes off the street. Imagine my shock. And New Year's Eve got off to obviously, it was very busy in the CBD, but there was quite the shocking scenes in Lygon Street in Carlton, where rival Sudanese gangs they had a machete fight. And now, Lygon Street, of course, it was previously famous for the mafia, the Carlton crew getting shot in Melbourne's Gangland War. It was in the La Paqueta toilets in Lygon Street when Mick Gatto shot Andrew Benjamin and was found not guilty on self-defense. So it's sort of in Lygon Street. While some things change, everything stays the same. It's just the type of ethnic crime in Lygon Street has changed, and the weapon of choice has changed. And then there was three machete wielding used on the Monash Freeway. In what looked like an attempted carjacking. So So the Lygon Street stabbing, that was just on New Year's Eve, and the Monash Freeway, the Machete Freeway terror, that occurred on January the 3rd.
No, yeah, put the one. Yeah. Done. years is stupid, but 10 years is stupid, 10 years I'll be what? You too younger. Yeah, I'm saying 10 years I'll be 30 years I'll be 10. Are you play football? Nah, yeah, football's too hard. I'll be defender. Yeah. Done. Yeah. Done.
Masked, dangerous and running amok on the Monash.
Oh my God. They literally had machetes.
As the chaos began, Emily Seddon started filming.
Guys, there was people swerving on the road and they just crashed and they just got out and had a machete.
Hundreds of drivers stopped, barely able to understand what they were watching.
Oh my God.
Even police are unsure what sparked the mayhem, but witnesses saw at least 2 cars involved.
We started to see cars swerving and we were like, wow, like what's going on?
The 2 vehicles crashed near the Belgrave Hallam exit. In one, a single male driver, seen here carrying a bum bag. In the other,
3 guys come out full black outfits with ski masks and one of them was holding a machete.
that man then attacked another driver.
He started banging the machete on one of the cars there.
Possibly an attempted carjacking. The man from the first car immediately turned and fled as other drivers tried to escape up the freeway exit.
They're going in the bush.
The drama unfolded around 2:30 this afternoon. Within the hour, police, including the dog squad, were combing the area, but the masked thugs were long gone. The lone driver from the first car stayed to help officers, possibly as confused as everybody else.
Oh my God, I actually felt like I was in a movie.
Nick Etchells, 7 News.
Now, the 3 young people used, it's hard to tell their age, they were wielding the machetes on the Monash. They didn't appear African. You could see, even though they were masked, you could see their hands were light. But there was a... I'm not sure if everyone heard that news about that shooting of a 16-year-old at Fitzroy outside a closed police station. The victim of that was a Sudanese teenager, Atta Good. So he was shot dead while he got pizza after basketball training. So he's been remembered as someone who was deeply loved and cherished by those who knew him as police continue the hunt for the culprits. So he actually played with the CBA All-Stars team with Dal Akun, who was one of the 2 boys killed in Cobblebank in last year when another boy were ambushed by 8 masked assailants. So the CBA's former head of coaching at Ghani Sakra remembered Atta, who's also known as Ilya, saying the child had coached in an under-14s team, being a talented basketballer. He showed a potential as an athlete. He later moved away from playing the game. Sakra said he was coaching Atta. He would pick him up and a few other boys from their houses after games and would buy them something at Macca's. Now, the fact that youth crime, gang crime, has continued into 2026, which is an election year. The Victorian Liberal Party is again in turmoil, and today you would say a ace has been struck at the Victorian Liberal Party from its own side with the retirement at the upcoming federal election of the deputy leader Sam Groth, former tennis star, who, well, he gave a backhander to his colleagues in his retirement statement. So he said that the public pressure placed on my family in recent months has been significant, realizing that some of it came from within my own party has been difficult to ignore. Coming to the realization has forced some very personal reflections. When you find yourself having to fight against your own team, it becomes impossible to put those interests first. That is not the stand I came into public to accept, and it is not the kind of politics Victorians deserve. It's been an extremely challenging period for my family. We took on this role for the right reasons, to contribute to our community and make a positive difference. That purpose has never changed, but the environment around it has. I'll not be making any further comment. Over summer, I'll take time with my family to consider what comes next and the opportunity ahead. So he and his wife, they got a defamation settlement from the Herald Sun after they published what was basically a scandalous, it was defamation about its allegations about how he met his wife. And then there was leaks from his own party about travel expenses as shadow tourism sports minister to go to the Australian Open. He was criticised by his own colleagues. So they will have to elect a new deputy leader. Sam Groth today actually didn't resign as the deputy leader. Now, he won this seat of Nepean back on the Mornington Peninsula from the Labor Party at the 2022 state election with a 6% swing based on, I think, his name recognition. That's also the reason why Paul Mercurio, who won the seat of Hastings for the Labor Party off the Liberals at that election, because it's a retiree demographic. They know him from the Strictly Ballroom, Dancing with the Stars, and then his foodie career. And so, of course, Paul, you're on the TV and you want to be our MP, humble servant. Yeah, we'll vote for you, Paul. So with Sam Groth retiring, the Labor Party could win that back, or it could the Teals could try and win it. Maybe, what was his name again? Ben Smith, that yellow teal. So again, it's just the Jess Wilson. She had been doing a decent job so far, but this again just reminds voters that the Liberal Party is entirely dysfunctional in Victoria, and it's why we are a one-party state at the moment, and the Victorian disease is spreading federally to the federal Liberal Party as well.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
All right, now it's time for the sports report. Now, Usman Khawaja, who has been in the Australian Test team for over a decade, and he has been a fantastic servant to the Test side, but he's 39 years old now. So his body is aging. His recent Test innings have been mediocre, but as have a lot of the Australian batsmen this summer. They've been bowling great, but they haven't been batting. And so they won the Ashes, winning the first three Tests, but so far the last two Tests are leaving a lot to be desired. Usman Khawaja, born in Pakistan, migrated to Australia when he was 4, held a retirement press conference that went for an hour, and it was one of the most self-indulgent press conferences I've ever seen. Despite having an illustrious Test career, he still played the victim, claiming he was the victim of racial discrimination, that he should have broken into implying that he should have broken into the test team sooner, but he was overlooked because he was a Pakistani Muslim, and also claimed that criticism of him playing golf and getting a back injury before the first tests were racist. And now he has been an activist over the past few years. So remember, he wanted to wear "All Lives Are Equal" on his shoes, but he was banned by the International Cricket Council. All lives are equal. Remember, that's okay, just not all lives matter. So that was also part of his whinge, and also had a go at all of the right-wing racists who are having a go at his activism claim, and also claiming that he's just being picked on for being a brown Muslim.
I understand that I've talked about certain issues outside of cricket, which leaves me exposed, which a lot of people don't like. I still find it hard when I say, that everyone deserves freedom and that Palestinians deserve freedom and equal rights, why that is such a big issue. But I get it. I put myself out there. Even when we talk about Australian politics and, we get all these right-wing politicians that are anti-immigration and anti-Islamophobia, and I speak up against them. I know people don't love that, but I feel like I have to, because where these guys are trying to divide, create hate, and trying to create animosity in the Australian community, I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm trying to bring everyone together. I'm trying to bring inclusivity into Australia. I'm trying to say I'm the Australian Muslim from Pakistan, and I'm an Australian cricketer right in front of you who loves playing cricket, loves going out and doing everything that you do. If you talk about integrating into the country, I've got a white wife over there who I love and cherish, and I've got half Australian, half Pakistani kids. And so that is very frustrating to me at times. And I know what the older generation, I know what people say about me, stay in your spot, don't speak about topics that you don't know, you're just a cricketer, do your things, whatnot. But, how do you think it makes me feel when people talk about immigration or they start attacking, Islam or Muslims for everything that's going on? I am an immigrant in Australia. I came here at the age of 5. It's personal. It is. When you start attacking my faith and my belief system, it is personal. So I'm going to speak about that because not many athletes do, and I understand why they don't.
Why not spit in our faces while you're at it there? Now, he talked about, I noticed the white nationalists pointed this out. He said he has a white wife, Rachel, who converted to Islam, but she doesn't wear the hijab. I noticed that Usman's mother was there. She wears the hijab. He said that he has a white wife and has half Australian and half Pakistani children. So he's saying that he's integrated, he's proud Australian, but then conceded that because he's Pakistani, it means that his children, even though he considers himself an Australian and has played cricket for Australia, he only considers his children half Australian. So I think I saw Ozpil point that out, that as what a white nationalist would view as a Freudian slip. Now, of course, Usman Khawaja, very hard done by. $9 million property portfolio. Will probably have a illustrious post a retirement cricket career, maybe in commentary. And don't worry, Usman, we hate the white woke cricketers as well, like the captain, Pat Cummins, who is white as they come, with his climate change crusading, despite the fact that he's jet setting all around the world to play test cricket, but he still is a good captain. He's still got that winning mentality as an Australian Test captain. So we still grit our teeth with Pat Cummins as we do with you, Usman. Now, I don't know if Usman Khawaja's brother, Arslan, was there, who was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for framing a University of New South Wales colleague who he was jealous he was jealous over, framing him for a fake terror plot. So he was sentenced in 2020 to a non-parole period of 2 years and 6 months. So he's out of prison now. I'm not sure he was at the press conference. So Usman Khawaja didn't accompany him into court. Khawaja's parents were there and older brother. So yes, I don't think that's not really integration there from another member of the Khawaja family. But it was interesting that he used a weaponized Islamist terrorism. He weaponized that to frame his colleague. I mean, it was like, that's how elaborate and vindictive it was. Now, also, other sports news. My team, the Brisbane Lions, our co-captain Lachie Neale, he has stepped down as captain after he confirmed that he had separated from his wife, Jules, though he didn't confirm what has been widely reported, that he had an affair with his wife's best friend. And so he had no choice but to resign as co-captain. So now we've had two former captains now had affairs. Dane Zorko cheated on, our former captain cheated on his first wife. He's remarried now. But the thing about Lachie Neale is that he had such a good reputation. Dane Zorko was known as a sledger on the field. So because Lachie Neale, he had such a likable personality, 2-time Brownlow winner, best and fairest, it certainly come as quite a shock. They have 2 children together. She's taken the kids, gone back to Perth where they first met. So it's a right mess.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it is Australia Month, which is celebrating everything Australian history throughout the whole month of January. It was founded or created by Ben Shan, the Dusty Bogan, as basically because the anti-Australia Day, Invasion Day crowd, they're not going to stop at changing the date. They want to abolish the date and abolish Australia. So we need to push back in the other direction. So we shouldn't just have one day celebrating Australia. I know that Sam Kekovich, in one of his Lambassador ads for Australia Day, said we need Australia Week. Well, Dusty Bogan said, let's have a whole month, because January the 1st is Federation Day, January the 1st. So 1901, so it was the 125th anniversary of Australian Federation, the 6 colonies coming together to form the Australian Federation. And Australia, of course, culminates on January 26 with Australia Day, the arrival of the first fleet, Governor Arthur Phillip planting the Union Jack on Sydney Cove. And there is going to be another march for Australia on Australia Day in all the major capital cities. I know in Melbourne they're meeting at Flinders Street Station. I don't know whether protests will still be banned in Sydney, though the Invasion Day rally, that will be allowed to be held. And I think that the Breakaway Queensland Group Australia Marches is also having an event, and probably Monica Schmidt will organise Put Australia First rallies as well. Anyone can have an event on Australia Day, celebrating Australia Day. It doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to Australians. But Australia Month is a great initiative because January the 1st, we should always remember that that's our Federation Day. That is when the Commonwealth of Australia came into being. I remember when I was in primary school, year 12, centenary of Federation. We all got, I've still got mine now, a centenary medal. I don't know if it's how much it'd be worth now, but it's not something I'd sell. It's a sentimental bit of personal Australian memorabilia from my primary school day there. So check the March for Australia social pages for in your capital cities, and I'll keep you updated in future WilmsFronts about any other Australia Day events.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
And that brings us into another WilmsFront Snapshot news program. And now the annual Unshackler Awards, the first 3 have been published. So the Australian Regressive of the Year, the Australian Unshackler of the Year, and the International Unshackler of the Year. So we have 7 more awards to go. The International Cuck of the Year, Cis White Male of the Year, Triggered Feminist, Culture Warrior of the Year, the Degenerate of the Year, the Media Personality of the Year, and also the Fake News of the Year. So voting is open until Australia Day, when our senior editor Damien Ferry announces the winners. I've got a fresh report from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft about Jacinta Allen's Another Apology. There'll be a few more over the summer period. And I hope in the new year to bring you some WilmsFront featured interview programs as well. Thank you so much for your company once again. It's going to be a hot one in Melbourne this week, so remember to stay hydrated. Common sense things, sunscreen, hat, the thing. It's not a climate emergency. It's just summer for a day, and then it gets cool again. So good night, everybody. Certainly, if you're in Melbourne, stay safe wherever you are, and I'll see you again next Monday, and keep voting in the Unshackler Awards.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the Unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.